Hello and welcome to another C3 Stingray video. It's only been a little over a week since I put the last video up, and this is on my series. I bought a 1979 Corvette for $1,500 and I'm rebuilding it and getting it ready to be put on the road by April 8th, 2026 next year. So I have less than 6 months to get this done. I'm only working on a couple days a week and we're on part 3 already. Part 3 is taking out the Turbo 350 automatic transmission. So this video is pretty much on how to take this transmission out and also how to take the hood off. And there's a remnants of an engine, but it's not enough there to make how to take an engine out of this because there's just not enough there to work with. But anyway, I think there's a lot of information here, and this will be the last thing we do before we start getting into the rebuilding part of stuff in the next video. But we'll talk about that again later. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do, and hit that notification button because you'll want to watch the evolution of this 79 Corvette that was bought for $1,500 and being put on the road next year. I'm actually very anxious to see the end results myself. So, enough talk. Let's get into the video.
First off, we're going to take the hood off the car. Obviously, you don't need to take the hood off the car to get the transmission out, but this hood is just going to be my way over this whole process. I think I'm just going to take it off now. The hood support is already messed up and won't hold it up. So I just need to get out of the way. As you can see, here's the remnants of that engine that we're going to be getting out of here today too. And there's the broken hood support. But what we're going to do is mark the hinges. People mark them, they scribe them or put, like I'm using this marker just to mark around the hinge plates. That way when you go put it back in, you can kind of line it up and it'll still be aligned. This one really should probably be realigned anyway, but I'm just doing it for demonstration purposes. And there's 4 13mm bolts holding the hood on. And what I do is I take out the bottom bolt completely, but the top bolt I leave in just a few threads, just barely hand tight, just so I can take it out easily by hand, just to hold it in place so it doesn't slide down and crash into the front of the car. So I had to use a wrench on this bottom one. I couldn't get in there with the impact. But once again, I'm just taking the bottom one out and loosening the top one. Now we're going to get the bolts out of this, what's left of this hood support. And next you need like something to hold the hood up, just enough to get your arm underneath it. Now I go and get a box for mine. This box here, I already set the hood down. I didn't record that, I don't know why. But I set the hood down. Now I'm going to put this box under it. It'll give me enough room to get my arm in there to take out those 2 bolts that are just hand tight. And doing it this way, the hood doesn't slide around, doesn't crash into the front. And now you can pick it up and take it off. You might need help picking that up. It's kind of awkward. Since I have a low ceiling and no lift, I have to jack this thing up as high as I can. I got some pretty tall 6-ton floor jacks, which are pretty nice. I can get under the car pretty good with these. I have no carburetor in this car, so I'm just showing you this picture of where the throttle body kickdown cable is that goes to the transmission. You need to slide that and take that off. It just slides forward, pops off, and there's a little plastic clip on the back that you can pop out of a bracket. But you really need to take this off before you begin underneath. First off, we need to get this drive shaft off of here. There's a couple U-clamps here with 11mm bolts, and you just put your transmission in neutral and rotate the wheels. Get those lined up where you can get to them pretty easy. I'm on the driver's side here. It's a pretty good clear spot where you can get to the bolts. You just move the wheel till you get it centered, and then you want to get a really good tight fit on this bolt because you really don't want to round these off. Sometimes you force them and they'll round off, and you're really in trouble when that happens. So these were 11mm and it fit really tight, so I didn't have any issues. I didn't spray these. You could spray them, but these actually came out fairly easy. There's a clamp on each side, 4 bolts. You see I'm rotating it to the next bolt. This illustration gives you a better, clearer view of the clamps and what they look like. And I just keep working this until I get all 4 of these off. And just rotate the wheel to each one. And once you get it in there, you got to break that loose. Sometimes it'll pop loose. I had to use a crowbar to get it loose. But then you're supposed to slide it over the top there and pop it out of the transmission. But this thing would not slide far back enough. I was like an eighth of an inch away from dropping out of the transmission. But I decided I'm just going to leave it until I start lowering the transmission and it'll pop out then. Now we're taking off the exhaust manifold, the pipes to the exhaust manifold. They're 14mm nuts. And I got the air impact out because I knew these were going to be tough to get out, and I was actually taking the whole stud and everything out with it. I'm going to put a wrench on that one because there's a socket on that one because I couldn't get the impact in that one. But I'm going to get these loose, and then we're just going to work our way down the exhaust system and take away any hangers that are holding it up. I'm not really showing that because every exhaust is a little bit different. This one's pretty original still. I'm actually going to cut the pipe right in front of the catalytic converter because I'm not going to use any of this. It's all rusted out pretty bad and it's just easier to get off. So you got to do what you can do to get your exhaust out of the way. It's got to be taken out of the way because it runs right through that transmission support, as you can see. Next, we're taking off the transmission lines. It's on the sides, on the passenger side. You need a 13mm line wrench. I do not have one. Mine broke some time ago and I keep forgetting about it and never replaced it. I'm not able to get it off the wrench. I'm not saving these lines, so I just cut them. Now in the back, there's a vacuum hose on the back of the transmission. It just pops off. Now we're going to move over to the speedometer cable. It's going into the side of the transmission on the driver's side. There's just one 10mm bolt holding the little clamp in, as you can see in this diagram. You pull that bolt out and pull that little clamp out, and it's kind of into a groove of the speedometer cable. It's hard to see in this. That's why I showed the diagram. It's just totally covered in grease. Next up is the shifter cable. There's this little cotter pin holding the cable on to the shifter, and then we got two 13mm bolts holding the bracket onto the transmission. So taking that cotter key out and just taking out these two 13mm bolts, and that's removed. Now we're over to the flywheel torque converter cover. There's four 10mm bolts holding that on. Now we're on that torque converter. They're 15mm bolts. There's three of them. You're gonna have to rotate this to get to each one. This first one, I was having a lot of trouble getting these to break loose. The first one I got off, but the next two did not want to move. And as you can see, the hole, I started worrying about it. I really wasn't sure of the condition of that hinge. I wasn't even sure it was going to turn. But after I put a pipe on it, I got it to break loose, and then it turned pretty easy. As you can see, this tool I'm using, it's this flywheel tool. I use this in that, if you watch my other video, taking a transmission out of that C4 Corvette. And these things come in handy. I've used this a lot. It's a lot easier. I mean, you can use a screwdriver, but you can't turn it as much. And this just makes it a lot easier. So you can see I had to spray this bolt down. It was not going to go. And then I had to spray the other one down. Now I came back to it, and I had to turn it all the way around to get back to that bolt. But I was able to get them off without any issue. Now we got to remove this whole support in the back, the transmission support. We got two bolts on the transmission itself. And then on each side there's a through bolt on the top and two more bolts on the bottom. And that goes on each side. There's also the emergency brake cable pulley is on top, and that's going to have to be removed. So you need to make sure your emergency brake is off. It's right here. It's a 19mm. We're going to have to take that off and get that pulley out of the way because it's sitting on top of that support. As you can see all the crud falling and stuff, you really need to wear safety glasses. I should stress that at the beginning of this. There's so much crud under these cars, and it'll hit you in the eye, and trust me from experience, it's not a good thing. Right now I'm putting the transmission jack under the transmission to support it, because once we remove this support in the back, the thing's just going to drop. So you need to have it jacked up there. There's two 16mm bolts here at the end of the transmission that we're taking out. And these ones on the side, that through bolt, and those two underneath are all 14mm. Now I'm putting a floor jack under this too to hold this up, just so it doesn't fall down when I take the other side off. I'd just rather lower it down slowly. I'm taking these three 14mm off on this side, and then we'll be ready to drop this down. And as you see, I forgot about the two more bolts holding this catalytic converter shield. This guard shield that was above it. It's attached to the top of this. I didn't remember that. There are two 13mm bolts there that were on top, which actually have been pretty hard to get to where it was. That second bolt is just covered in crud, so I have to wipe that off to get to it. Now the support is loose. I'm going to go ahead and take out the other two 13mm holding that guard up and just get it out of my way. I'm lowering the transmission jack to try to get this drive shaft out of there, and as you can see, once you got it down low enough, it popped right out. But now we have access to the bell housing bolts. There's a foam piece in there I've never seen before. I had to take that out. But there's the 6 bolts where they would be on your bell housing. They're 14mm. You can usually get them to them with a long extension, a little swivel end. I was able to get the top one and the bottom one easy, and then the middle one I took out with a wrench. The passenger side, you also have the bolt on the top is actually holding that dipstick holder. That whole assembly, the dipstick, the top bolt is holding it into place. So I took the bottom bolt out, and then I had to hand ratchet that middle one out with a wrench. And then I went above and got the top one by the dipstick assembly because it was just easier. You could get them all from underneath, though. I think I should have lowered that a little bit more, the transmission a little bit more. And that would be another thing too, is maybe draining the transmission before you're doing this, because I was making a big mess. It was, anytime I lowered it too much, it would start pouring out. So it would probably have been a good idea to drain it first. But here I am up on top. There's the right against the firewall, and I'm taking this other 14mm out, and then I'm taking this assembly out, this dipstick assembly. But that's hard to say. Sometimes these can be a real pain to get out. This one came out pretty easy. Now we're taking this starter out. There's two 14mm underneath, and then there's a 12mm on the front, a little bracket holding the front up. Now with everything out of the way, as you can see, I supported the engine now, which is probably a good idea because you don't want it to drop. But you just got to keep wiggling it until it breaks free, and then voila, the transmission is out. And there's that kickdown cable from the carburetor. That's why you need to take that off. And now, like I said, all I had to do was take the motor mounts out of this engine. I wasn't going to show all that, but I just wanted to show that the engine was out.
Buy any new or used car, truck, SUV, or van from Buff Wayland Chevrolet and get this free performance video from Juilliard's Academy.
Well, we did it. Got that transmission out, we got the remnants of the engine out, we got the hood off. It was a pretty successful video. Let's check that checklist to see where we're at. We're going to be adding a lot more to this. How many more days do we have left? We've got 177 days till April 8th of 2026 when this thing's going to be going on a road trip somewhere. So there's a lot of things to be done, which that seems like a long time, but when you only can work on them maybe a couple days a week, there's a lot of stuff that's going to be done. All right, in the next video, we're going to be taking that front end off and rebuilding it and putting it back on. It's probably going to be broken up into 3 videos. 1, taking it off. 2, rebuilding it. 3, putting it back on. And that should be very informative, and it's a complete rebuild kit, so it'll be very interesting to see. But if you need any new or used C3, C4, C5 Corvette parts, you can go to my website at c3stingray.com, and you need to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification button so you don't get lost on this series with the '79 Corvette. And I'd also like to say is, like, when you're working on these cars, like especially these old cars are all rusty and stuff breaks and things won't come off, and you really get ticked off sometimes. You start cussing it out. It's an inanimate object. It doesn't care. You can cuss it out all you want. It's not going to change anything. So it's probably best to keep a positive attitude. I'd like to end with a positive quote. I've never done that one before. You'd think it'd be someone I'd never quote, and that's Henry Ford, but I really love this saying, and it kind of relates to working on cars. It's like, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are correct. Let that sink in. All right, I will shut up. I will see you on the road.